Welcome, everyone, to the Commentary Podcast. I am your host, Pat Brennan.
Today on the podcast, we are going to be continuing our classic cinema series with The Maltese Falcon. It was released in 1941, and it is written and directed by John Huston. The film stars Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, Gladys George, Peter Lorre, Barton McLean, Lee Patrick, and Sidney Greenstreet. San Francisco private detective Sam Spade takes on a case that involves him with three eccentric criminals, a gorgeous liar, and their quest for a priceless statuette, with the stakes rising after his partner is murdered. Now, I'm going to be watching the 4K copy I have of The Maltese Falcon. Unfortunately, it is not available to stream anywhere, but you can rent it on Apple, Amazon, and Fandango at home for $4. I say we get things kicked off. I'm going to be pressing play on The Maltese Falcon, and I hope you do as well. In 3, 2, and 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another entry into the classic cinema series. And what better way to do another entry besides Casablanca with another Bogart and The Maltese Falcon, which is often considered the grandfather of film noir. We actually have a lot of cast members from this film that would go on to be in Casablanca, and we'll see them when we're watching the film here. Just me today, though. Just me. No other co-hosts. Solo effort from yours truly, as they say. I was actually watching this last night with my co-host Tony, who you all know and love, and I was telling him that you can buy a replica of the Maltese Falcon on Amazon. And currently, it's sitting in my Amazon cart. I don't know. Maybe I'll buy it during this episode. I'll let you know. I will let you know. I'll keep you updated. San Francisco. I've only been there one time. And obviously, this wasn't filmed in San Francisco, but I've been there once. This is actually Huston's first film, which is kind of crazy that your first film is considered a pinnacle of not just old Hollywood, but starting the creation of film noir. Sorry if you hear me pausing a lot. It's because I'm sipping some coffee right now. Recording this on a nice Thanksgiving morning. I hope you all listening to this had a great Thanksgiving, because this will be released after that. So it'll be released the next day. Getting those Black Friday deals. Yeah, but this is Huston's first film. He also wrote the screenplay for it, and the studio was actually really impressed by his the script for it. One of the producers said that I think he was impressed with how much how much detail that Huston was using, especially for a script that's all this. This is a remake of a 1931 film, which was, I think the book came out in 1930, The Maltese Falcon. I think the 31 film is called... I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. It was still The Maltese Falcon. I don't know why. I thought it was something different. But it's directed by Roy Duluth, also from Warner Brothers. So I'm wondering if this point Warner Brothers wanted to... I think that one was moderately successful, but not like a big film for them. It wasn't like a bomb or anything, but... And I think with this, too, you have Bogart coming after like the Roaring Twenties and High Sierra and I think Hassier actually came out this year. 41 that this came out, but I think he had just filmed it for Warner Brothers. And then he had Casablanca come out the next year. I mean, Bogart was becoming a big star for Warner Brothers at the time. They actually offered the role to George Raft, but for him to play Sam Spade, he turned it down. I think he thought he didn't want to work with a first-time director, I believe, and he thought the script wasn't that great. He actually turned down a lot of Bogart roles. I think he turned down High Sierra and Casablanca, which are these three films are big hits for Bogart and established him as one of the greatest actors of all time. One of the most, in my opinion, I think he is the most famous actor of all time. And I think if you walk down the street and you ask someone who Humphrey Bogart is, they might not have seen his films, but they know who the face is. If you showed them a picture, you'd be like, they probably would say, yeah, I've seen that person before. So, and the more you watch this film, you realize it's not like it has the noir tropes, but it's not, and you obviously like the lighting of noir and the twists and turns, but like noir obviously hadn't been established as a genre yet. So you have a film like this that introduces a new type of filmmaking style, look, story, create a whole new genre. I think what impresses me most about this, like, here's your noir look and the darkly lit gun in the shadows. I wonder how many times they had to have the stunt guy fall down that hill. Sorry if you can hear me sipping coffee. I kind of was doing that by the mic. Didn't mean to do that. Well, even you have like this shot here. Bogart's completely talking. He answered the phone, but he's completely talking off camera. Like, he's not even in the scene. You have just a bright light blowing out the window, and then you pan out to see him. But when he was receiving that information, he kept it on the window. It's like symbolizing I have the clock there, symbolizing the journey he's about to go on. Time is ticking. And the road will be dark. What you're going to find out. I may have to buy the Maltese Falcon while we're here on Amazon. I have it up. I have the link up. Yeah, I mean, for Warner Brothers, this was a smash success immediately. And the budget was, I think, around 350, 375, 375,000. Made 1.8 million. Big hit for them. And Houston only shot the film in I think 30, 40 days. I love this scene. Just the lighting. It's what Tony and I were talking about last night. We were watching it. Just the lighting on the building here. It's just so perfectly crafted. Again, I feel like I always bring this up every podcast, but they just don't light films like this anymore. I mean, it's the noir genre, but it's just a distinct look that I feel like is a lost art in film. And I mean, you can clearly tell this is a set, this is a stage, but I wouldn't mind seeing someone make a movie like this now, just to make it look old. They would never do that, but I just think that, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that people today don't take time with their craft and how they want things to look. But you can have a lighting like this in modern day movies, but it's not natural, so they don't do it. And if you want to make a noir now, it's more of a natural looking, natural feel, as opposed to kind of like a otherworldly, dark, and dimly lit story, essentially. And if you notice, like when you're watching this, like a lot of their costumes are really dark. Like a lot of Bogart's suits, very dark. And when we first see Sidney Greenstreet, the suit he's wearing, and then I think he wears like I'll point it out when we see it, but he wears like it's like this like dark robe that's so like full silk. Just so it looks great. There's a shot coming up here that is used a lot throughout the film. It's like you'll have Bogart in between the detectives, and I'll point it out when we see it, but he's about to do it right now. It's this shot, like a shot like this, where he's on the bed and he's facing away from us in between the middle of the detectives. And I think with these older noirs and older films in general, I feel like blocking has become a lost art. A lot of these films, like they had a lot of rehearsal and would meticulously block out how they wanted the actors to move and where they're going to say their line on what movement. And I think that becomes a part of the character and how the actors are moving through the scene, how they're acting through the scene, through their movements, and how they're framed. As we pans up, and then we get this shot. This shot is great. And then you have the reverse of him in between them. You'll notice it a lot through this film, and I'm sure I'll point out every single instance of it. But even have like this shot here, it's kind of like they're interrogating him. That one light is like, like the classic interrogation scenes of the one lamp in front of their face, and you have that one lamp in front of his face as they're interrogating him, and just very subtle. And what I love about when Bogart got up there, like it's kind of what Fincher kind of does now is like the camera moves up with him. Like if he's standing up, the camera stays in the same height level, but we just tilt the frame up. But then he's not obviously being interrogated anymore, so he leaves that where the lamp is in his face to get up, and he's more asking them questions now, all on the same height level as his detective. Getting a little more comfortable. They're a little more comfortable. Still a suspect, but and then we move the final shot of that scene. Cameras are completely above them, showing how Bogart or Sam Spade completely took a control of that conversation. He kind of overpowered them in like the interrogations. I think that's what I was trying to say. Overpowered them in the interrogation. I think the more also you watch like Houston and like John Ford films, you'll see the influence, especially in the camera movements, on Spielberg, especially the push-ins and pull-outs. It's just an old school way of filming, and they use like the whole set. These actors are moving through the whole set, even if the camera's far back. They're walking through the whole thing. The camera will push in a little bit. We were also looking last night on how a lot of these older film scores, especially like Maltese Falcon, the whole score like isn't streaming anywhere. And I think Apple Music or Spotify had a few of the songs, and that could be all the songs on the score. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like a lot of those older film scores don't really have a platform to be viewed or listened to. You can go to like a local record store and find some of those old scores on vinyl. But other than that, it's kind of like you might find like a YouTube rip or just one or two songs here and there. And I love the shot of him sitting down and you just see the empty desk across from him. And it's great. It's subtle, but it shows that Bogart did care about his partner. And you only need a little shot like that. You don't need him to walk up to the desk and be like, pick up a photo of them like hugging, like both being detectives. It's like, we get it. You're both detectives, and he was my partner, and I cared. All we need is a subtle look at the other desk, the empty desk. I think about Bogart too in this, especially in this scene, like he's just acting so comfortable, and when she's asking him, like they think you did it, and he's just smiling and like he knows he didn't do it, so I don't need to act nervous. I'm acting confident. I'll light a cigarette. But even like again, like her suit, like look how black it is, and you really emphasize that black. It's just adding to the world that they're living in now. Just this murder, and but yeah, it's like he cares, but his partner is dead, so got to take that name off the door. It's just Samuel Spade now. Mary Astor is great in this, and obviously, like I mean, if you've never seen this film, and I guess I'm not gonna. I don't know if you can spoil it, but it's interesting to who the first person he calls after getting who he called after he received the phone call of his partner's death. Kind of tell you right away who may have done it. That's all I'll say. I think too with like Mary Astor's character here, you have Bogart come in with his black tailored suit interrogating, and she's kind of wearing this like lighter robe. He's being more direct and strict, and it's trying to show that she's trying to be like this innocence of her, trying to be sensing this innocence, like, oh, I didn't do this, and I'm so distraught, and wearing like a looser robe. She may be lying. She may be lying. It's like those camera movements there when she sits down and you push in. It's great. It's just great filmmaking. What do you have that shot there too when she's sitting down? It's almost like she's pleading and praying to him. And you didn't have Bogart in the frame there. She was cut to a close up of her and she was pleading there. But again, it goes back to the blocking of she actually like broke down a wall there and was like, please, please help me. And then when she stood up, her mood kind of changed. And then she came back down. Her mood changed as she stood up. The way she delivered the lines changed, and then she sat back down. And now her completely different. I think you can also tell that Bogart, his later films in his career, I feel like you could kind of tell in his face that there's more something deeper going on within him that he really wasn't saying. But if you watch this performance here, and I mean, I think my favorite performance at Bogart is In a Lonely Place, the Nicholas Ray from 1950, I believe. Um, but if you watch like this performance here, it seems like a completely different Bogart. It looks like he's having so much fun, loving what he's doing, loving acting. He just seems like he has this like light within him. And even if you watch like the Roaring Twenties from '39, um, he's kind of the same way. And he was a co-lead in that. Wasn't the lead, but you see this different person, this different actor. And I know like when he went on to make Casablanca, that when they were making that, they thought it wasn't gonna be received well, so maybe he just that attributed to like his performance, which then it made his performance even better. That it looked like he was down a lot. When they were making this film, they knew that they had something special here when they were making it, and they wanted to close the set off, and they didn't want people coming on the set that didn't have to be there, whether it be publicists, reporters, other actors, just people coming to visit. They wanted to keep it pretty tightly closed. Again, like as you close that scene, you push in and you slightly tilt the camera up. It kind of becomes like a signature shot in this film, and you see the influence, like especially on Steven Spielberg and these types of camera movements. I mean, he loved these films from the 40s and 50s, and I feel like today we talk about how the influence of Spielberg, Scorsese, Fincher, how they have on new generations of filmmakers, but those filmmakers when they were growing up, these were the filmmakers that they were influenced by, whether it be David Lean, John Huston, George Cukor, Michael Curtiz, William Dieterle, Billy Wilder. They had their influences, and then when you watch these older films, you can see how Spielberg's blocking, camera movements come from other directors that he loved. And we have now entering the great Peter Lorre. And these two became very, very good friends. I mean, this whole cast and crew seem to become very good friends. Bogart attributed Houston to being his best friend, and vice versa. And obviously, Peter Lorre and Bogart would go on to then start in Casablanca the very next year. When you have Peter Lorre in, I think one of the greatest films I've ever seen. He's a Hungarian actor, Austrian. I think he's Austrian Hungary. Um, pre him coming to the U.S. before he fled Germany once Hitler rose to power. Um, he started Fritz Lang's M, which I first saw in film school back in 2011 at this point when I first watched that. Incredible film. It's in the Criterion Collection. Highly recommend. I think it's Laurie's best for performance, and it kind of is what I think allowed him to get roles in the U.S. When you can see a performance like that. I mean, it's in German, the film, but Laurie is just like an actor that I feel like people, when they watch movies, are like, oh, yeah, that guy. And they're probably like, that's the guy from Casablanca, or that's the guy from Maltese Falcon. And they don't really know his name that much. And also, the insert of that shot of the gun hitting the ground, but also very Spielberg. I think the more I watch like Houston's work, you can see a lot of influence on Steven Spielberg. Even that there was a cut right there in when he was looking at his passports. Very subtle, but there was a cut. And here's your detective noir. No dialogue shown, but we get everything from him just looking at objects in his pockets. Then you have his own, it's like his own interrogation with that light in the back. He's not really saying anything, but he's just going through all of his stuff. I feel like you could like take a shot every time someone points a gun at Humphrey Bogart in this film. I think it's like probably have like 8 shots by the end of it. I think those that know me just know how much I am of a champion of classic cinema, and especially Turner Classic movies. How I think that's, we talked about it in our weekly episode that came out this past week about the importance of channels like that champion films like this, films that are from 1941, from 1935, from 1950, that a lot of audiences today probably won't watch, or they've never heard of the Maltese Falcon if someone's getting into the film industry now, and or wants to get into the film industry now, starting to watch a lot of movies at like, say they're 16, 17, 25, 30, and they're starting to get into movies and maybe they've never heard of the Maltese Falcon. And you have a channel like Turner Classic Movies that has that intro, whether it be you have a Ben Mankiewicz on there, or you have a director coming on to, or an actor to introduce the Maltese Falcon and how it's influenced them to become an actor or director or writer. And screenplay is fantastic, and you can have that channel to show you the impact of and the importance of these older films and how they influence many generations of filmmakers and actors moving forward. Because if you look at like actors like actors that from like the 50s and 60s, like a Brando, or you can see, or like Brando, De Niro. I mean, they probably model their off of Brando, but Brando probably modeled a lot of his acting off Bogart, like just the way he controlled himself in the frame. Bogart just has this presence in the frame that a lot of actors don't. It's like it's kind of like a cool moving seamlessly through the scenes, delivering dialogue very easily. And especially you can tell within this, like this is an incredible performance by him. Sorry if you hear my chair moving around. I kind of have a loud chair. I need to get a new chair, but you can hear the creaking of it. I'm very sorry, but hopefully if you're watching this film, you can hear the film's a little louder so you don't hear that. He told her he'd walk right back in. He's got the key, so here I am. And a very like subtle change to her costume design now. It's what she's wearing is a little more gray, a little more darker, a little more tight lip, I guess as they would say. Not tight lip, but she's not wearing a loose clothing, trying to get his a sense of where he wants. And see, I think Bogart right now is kind of like seeing through it. Like, is he not buying it? I don't know. But it's like that lighting too. Like you just have that black below her, and this her face is completely lit up. It's again, it's like an interrogation. It's he's interrogating her. He knows that she's not telling the full truth. And you right now you have a 12 seconds of her getting up and doing something and him just watching her being like, "You're good. You're very good at distracting, avoiding questions. You're good at it." But obviously, she's not looking at him in that frame, and she is very nervous because she knows she can't lie to him. He sees right through it. Classic, classic cinema. There, you lie to me, but I'll kiss you. But yeah, anyway, going back to the Turner Classic Movies of it all, and I mean that's where I probably saw this film on Turner Classic Movies when I was in high school or college, and obviously knew who Humphrey Bogart was, but getting into film and realizing that there's different aspects to actors and the eras that they're acting in, and early Bogart is a lot obviously different from later Bogart when he was just having a lot of personal issues with himself and drinking and showing up on set after being up all night drinking and not getting along with a lot of his co-stars, kept to himself a lot. You kind of learn all that stuff from watching channels like that when they tell you stuff after and before, and can watch actors and directors talk about the stuff we talk about on this podcast and The way things are shot, set up, the way actors move, it influences everything. I think the more I kind of watch this too, like, oh, there's a very noir shot and looking out the window and the guy in the shadows with the hat. And sorry if you hear me clicking a lot, but my internet's not great in this room that I'm recording right now. I'm trying to keep this going, so we're going. And I love that when Peter Lorre walked in, he just pulled the camera so far back to establish the full scale of the room. And then what does he do when Bogart comes in? He just pushes right back in and does that same shot of Bogart in between them. He uses that shot a lot in this one. Again, like the way these shots are set up. Again, the lamp looks like it's interrogating, and you remove Bogart when his reactions of this scene. He's shot by himself because he's suspecting both of them. And I love the shot of her of Mary Astor where the lamp looks like it's directly above her. Surround her with the lamp. She's being interrogated by like everybody in this room. And then the confidence and calmness of her just rocking in the chair. She's very good at lying. Take another shot. Someone pulled a gun on Bogart. I love that slap that he does. He slaps him like back and forth. It's great. But even like the blocking there, you have them perfectly all in the frame. Like Bogart leans against the door. Again, it's that same shot of Bogart between them. He's always in between a lot of the characters in this. He's in between his detectives. He's in between the two people in the room. He's in between future characters, so you'll see. But it's like the contrast of these detectives think that he's lying, but then when he talks to the other people, he's always suspecting them of lying, and he knows he's not lying, but Peter Lorre has always a great scream. We didn't see what happened in that room. I wonder why we didn't see what happened in that room. I guess we'll find out at the end. Which also takes place in this room. I think what's also whenever I watch this, I realize that the end of this movie, the last 35 minutes is all one scene. Oh, look at that blocking right there. Perfect. All five within the frame. And then you have the reaction shots to Bogart. Like, again, he's all in the frame by himself. He's the lone wolf in this whole investigation. Everyone in this room has a different motive to what's happening in this story. But yeah, when we get to that final scene and you realize just this is like 35 minutes long. It's kind of bold to end the film with a 35-minute scene in the same room, just having people coming in and out. And I think Houston, from Mary Astor's character, I think I saw that he would have her run around the set right before she was about to do her scenes, just to make her seem kind of like distraught, out of breath, kind of stumbling over her words, making her really nervous. They became very, very close during the filming of this. Mary Astor and John Huston. Some would say very, very close because they had a little romantic affair, as they would say, during the filming of this. But yeah, once you like know that he would have her run around the set a lot right before her takes, you can see how it's almost like her brain's trying to remember the lines, but it adds to the effect of her trying to remember how to her character, like remembering how to lie. It works perfect. It works perfect. Houston also shot this in order, which a lot of people know that a lot of productions, say majority, about 95% of them, don't shoot their film in order. Sometimes they shoot an ending scene first. They can shoot that first. But Houston decided that he wanted to shoot this in order to have the actors really fall into their characters and establish their characters more as they were filming along. It also probably helps Houston in that way of filmmaking, of shooting things in order, and you, not actors also getting better, but you as a director getting better, knowing how to direct these actors in their performance, because you can see the strengths that they're doing, and the actors then can see the strengths in your filmmaking and how much better as the days go along you're becoming as a filmmaker and how much more confident. And again, it's the luxury of being able to shoot things in order. A lot of things now are shot on location, so it's very hard to shoot things in order when you have to get permits to film places. You can only film at this place for 3 nights. Well, this place is the middle of our film, so we got to shoot it first because that's the only time we can get it, is early in the production, so we got to shoot that first. So then actors have to know their characters before, and knowing that at that point in the film, it's the middle of the film, things have happened, you kind of have to act to what has happened on the page but hasn't happened on the screen yet. So then you have movies like the Maltese Falcon that can shoot this stuff in order. You can act as things are happening because you're just continuing the story on the page. And when it comes together at the end, you have a a perfect film, a film that births a new genre of filmmaking that becomes a Hollywood classic staple. And Huston was like one of the first directors that did like a on the page shot for shot instructions and images that he would draw out for his crew to set up each day for every single scene. And the final screenplay he made was so meticulously like crafted and visualized that every day on set they knew exactly what they needed. And then you have directors that came after that, like Hitchcock and Spielberg and Scorsese. They would use that same method as if we can, in pre-production, meticulously craft out everything that we want. The Coens do this. Like they storyboard every single shot, the camera movement that they want within that shot. If you can do that before in pre-production, when you get to the set the day, I mean, things change when you're on set, but if you can have that all mapped out, it makes for not only an easy production, but a happy production because you know what you want and you're not standing there all day trying to think of something. Again, when you put it all together, everything comes together perfectly and it works. And for a first-time director at the time to do that, to have everything so meticulously crafted and plotted out and detailed, it probably impressed a lot of the actors and crew members that although it's his first feature and his first script, like this guy has talent in what he wants to do here. And not only that, I mean, I think I brought it up earlier, but then I kind of transitioned to another topic. But I mean, Huston only took him 34 days to film this. He was given that budget of around $350,000, I believe. He came in under budget by $54, under budget and on time. And the studio, obviously, because he was a first-time director, they had a very strict restriction on him that if he went over shooting by one day, the film is canceled. He went over budget by $1, immediately fired on the spot. Someone would come in and finish the film. And what did Huston do? Filmed it on time, under time, and came in $54 under budget. Which obviously from a studio standpoint, Warner Brothers, and then they make this, becomes a big hit, establishes Huston, really skyrockets Bogart into stardom. And for the studio, you're now going to want to work with this guy a lot. And Huston went on to work with Warner Brothers a long, long time. I think Huston said when he was filming this, like one of the lead producers at Warner Brothers who did work on this, I believe it was Henry Blank, I think was the producer. I think Huston in an interview said that the greatest piece of advice he ever received as a director came from that producer, Henry Blank. And he said, shoot each scene as if it was the most important scene in the film. Which anyone listening that wants to make movies, and you're going to have scenes that are just like scenes that they do add things to the plot, but it could just be someone going from room to room, just talking to his secretary, and audience might not think it's important. The cast and crew might not think it's important. And on the page, it's not the most important scene. But if you treat it as the most important scene, if you're doing that for every single scene, when you put the final product together, each scene that you worked on, you took so much time, effort, crafted to perfection of what you wanted when you put it into that final product, final film. You're putting together all of these scenes that you thought each one was the most important part. So it's going to feel perfect. It's going to possibly be perfect. And in this case, there's no fat in this movie. Each scene is perfect. It's perfectly crafted, perfectly thought out. Every camera movement, every actor's blocking, every line delivery. It also makes for a fun set, which I heard on this set that they had a lot of fun. Would play practical jokes on a lot of people on the set. And if they, I know I said earlier they um, tried to keep the set as closed off as they could because they realized that they were actually making something that's pretty damn good. If some people did come and visit the set, they would play a prank. Like Mary Astor said in her biography that if they had a certain like producer that was coming to visit, they would do a bit where Peter Lorre would come out of her dressing room just as that producer seemed to be walking by and adjust his fly and say, "See you later, Mary." Fix his pants as he's leaving there, just as a joke to the producers. And I think Bogart and Sidney Greenstreet who's about to, I believe, come up here. Sidney Greenstreet would fake get into fights on set for any extra that was new or any producer that was new, and or anyone from the studio that's coming to visit. Yep, I mean, perfect timing there. Sidney Greenstreet right now. Yeah, they would play a practical joke that they would get almost into a fist fight, and Houston would have to step in, and then once they would just start laughing after a few minutes because it would get really quiet on the set, and especially for the new people, they would not know what's going on. So it seemed like they were having a lot of fun on the set. So sometimes productions don't have that. Sometimes it's very straightforward, and we're doing a job here. This suit that Greenstreet has on is fantastic. The long tailored like tail on the back, amazing. What I also love about this shot too is like there's a horse object in the middle, kind of maybe resembling the Maltese Falcon is they call it the black bird. They're all fighting over something that's so small, as small as that horse object in the background. It's filled with jewels, but all of this crime, lying, manipulation over something so small. And the way he shoots Greenstreet in his like medium close-ups is this below his like belly in the lens, towering over you. He's just like I feel like he's just laying on top of you in that frame, leaning back in the chair, just showing his power. Like this man has money, he has power, and all I have to do is shoot him in a certain way. And as an audience member, it gives you that presence of like this guy's intimidating, and it's intimidating for Bogart to walk into this scene. Obviously, Sidney Greenstreet again, another actor that would be in Casablanca with Bogart next year. He's also in a really underrated Christmas movie, Christmas in Connecticut with Barbara Stanwyck, I believe. Might be watching that this year possibly again. Just throwing it on. It's that time of year for the holiday classics. It's a Wonderful Life, a perfect film, which maybe next year we'll hit It's a Wonderful Life on around this time for the holiday season. I mean, it's a perfect film. Perfect film. Again, like each scene is Bogart's, everyone's lying to him. But Sidney Greenstreet's suit is so black there. So like commanding. And again, like the amount of dialogue and it's just so good. I love that change of Bogart as he leaves to he got what he wanted out of that exchange and somewhat startled them in a way. He's conning them in a sense. I love that shot too when it pulled back and you see that one guy that's just all the way in the back. Again, using that full set, using the whole thing. Everyone's in focus. And that guy's just sitting in the back doing nothing. Maybe he's taking notes. Again, the subtle camera movement there. When Bogart stood up, you just slowly push in a little bit. Because we as the audience are with Bogart the whole time. We're the Bogart character. So when he's making that movement, the camera's going to make that movement. We're making that movement with him. And it's not a slow push in, it's a quick push in. Making it more direct, more strict, more serious. As he's leaving the scene, we leave with him. The camera moves with him. Yeah, and I think Houston said that there was not one line of dialogue that was changed in this. I think they may have cut one scene that didn't work, and I don't even know if I have the 4K. I don't even think it's on there. Sometimes they'll add a extra scene, but for these older films, like they're not adding those extra scenes onto Blu-rays. It's kind of this is the film. I mean, it's you're not changing one line of dialogue. That shows you how strong your script is and how confident you are in your script, especially as a first-time director. And none of the actors want to change their lines. It's perfect. More guns at Bogart. Take a shot. This suit or this robe that Sidney Greenstreet has on here is incredible. Incredible. Amazing costume design. Like that silk just looks so good on camera. But again, it's like him wearing this robe is a sign of confidence. Like I'm wearing like a robe right now while I'm talking to you. But the robe's still black because it's intimidation, serious. And now he's going to hear about the Maltese Falcon, what the importance of why people have been killed over this thing. I think I really need to get a new chair. This I can hear the chair as I move. I'm sorry for my loudness over here. I'll invest in a new chair, I swear. I invested in a monitor. Chair is next. I think we were talking about last night when we were watching this too. Me and Tony was, especially in these scenes, like the cigars and just how good the cigars look. Smoking just looks good on film. I think you were also talking about how like like how in obviously films and shows now the whiskey glasses are like smaller, but they're using like full on glasses here, and that's great. I always just find it like funny and just when you watch these older films, just what happens in them, the way things look. But again, you're essentially having the same scene. Like they probably filmed these not too long from each other. The past scene when he's telling him the truth about the Maltese Falcon. Now Bogart's completely sitting in a different chair now. It's more of a genuine, honest conversation until something might come up here, but he does tell him what the Maltese Falcon is and why people want it. Wealthy, power, money. And they've been searching. Everyone seems to have been searching for a long time for this Maltese Falcon. So, and I have been too. That's why it's in my Amazon cart. But I can buy it right away. Not Sidney Greenstreet. He has to kill someone for it. I don't. I love that when he said, "Your glass." He hasn't said that before. What he wanted him to hand me your glass again. But Sidney Greenstreet's making him feel comfortable, sitting with him now, putting his hand on his knee, making him feel comfortable. But again, it's like Bogart's being tricked in this scene, and the audience is being tricked. And then you have when Bogart stands up here, you'll have something that happens where, and this is a lot of your exposition here to explaining the backstory of everything. And when I was in film school, I was always told never to write exposition, but sometimes you need it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you need that little. You need the backstory, why it's happening. It makes him feel comfortable, and what does he do? Drugs him. And now you as an audience member are like, well, shit. Bogart wasn't able to outsmart Sidney Greenstreet's character. He was already a step ahead of him. So he takes off his robe after that. As soon as he collapses, he takes off his robe, and then we reveal Peter Lorre's character was there the whole time too. And now they're on their way. Kind of like henchmen. I love how they just leave Bogart in there too. Like you think they maybe I want to leave him in his own like his apartment, but look at that lighting there. And you can see the aspects of like the twists and turns and the lighting right here in this scene when he wakes up, of how it would attribute all those tropes and look and influence on a story would then happen for that film noir genre, and you'll eventually have what is considered the greatest film noir, Double Indemnity, a few years later. But you wouldn't have Double Indemnity, Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity, without Huston's The Maltese Falcon. And when you watch Double Indemnity, you can see a lot of the influence that Maltese Falcon had on it. I also love that you can hear the voice on the other line as opposed to just a quick hello, yes, get her on the phone. 1 second pause. Like you can hear that talking. We also don't need to see it because that's as like I said, the audience is the Bogart character. We don't need to see the other side. We are reacting to what Bogart sees. It's kind of Bogart's in almost every single scene in this movie, bar like his partner getting killed. He's in almost every scene. Not very good bad guys. Let's circle circle where we're going. That's great. What I also love about this scene here too is the noise in it. And you have these actors are screaming their lines. So much going on. The flames in the bag. Because normally you would have like the no noise in the back and you just have him walk up, say his line, but it's got to be realistic. Like there's a fire and fire engines. Like they're going to be screaming their lines. Oh no. This is John Huston's father. Just delivered the package, which would be the Maltese Falcon. But yeah, that's John Huston's dad, and I think Huston would play a practical joke on his dad too. That after they would yell "cut," he would say, "Ah, we didn't get it. We didn't get it. We got to do it again." So he keep making his dad come in and out and keep dying dramatically, even though he got it. So he would just yell, "Cut! We got to do it again," and he would keep stumbling. And then I think he told him, "I'm just messing with you. We got it a while ago." And then I think his dad said, "I didn't expect to have to put so much work in today. I was only going to be doing like 1 or 2 shots." Yeah, I think he would say he missed his mark, staggering too much. Oh no, we didn't. You're overacting. The camera wasn't on, and yeah, I think he made him do it a lot. But I mean, he then made it up to his dad, and his dad ended up winning an Academy Award for Treasure of Sierra Madre just 7 years later. So. What I love about that too is like you don't see the Maltese Falcon, but and he grabs her hand. It's more of a power thing. It's like he's like touching the power that the Maltese Falcon has, and the way he grabs her wrist, and she says, "You're hurting me." He doesn't even realize it, but he's smiling menacingly. it's kind of like a holy grail in a sense, where like everybody's after this. It doesn't just resemble money; it just resembles power. I think we're coming up on the final scene here, which is about, let's see, what's our time code now? About like a minute and almost 10 in. Yeah, then this final scene is like 30 minutes long. He's Captain Jacoby, aka John Huston's dad. I love how this object with so much money and power is just wrapped in like newspaper. I wonder if that was actually Bogart writing. Probably not. Person did their Y kind of weird. Again, you hide the object, and you're the top detective. Yeah, Arthur Edison, who's the cinematographer for this, he worked on a lot of the I think he works on a lot of the Universal monster films. Stuck in it that attributes to that low lighting, the very dark in the back, and you take that type of cinematography and lighting from those monster movies and you insert them into essentially a crime drama. You're unlocking a new genre, and you use someone that knows how to light that. It's interesting to go from like that scene with Bogart and Greenstreet when he's explaining the Maltese Falcon to now, and how quick like the cuts are, and the scenes are like 5 seconds long of him on the in the booth there, then him dropping off at the bus station. Again, Mary Astor coming here, lying to him, stumbling around. But if you go back to that scene with him before Greenstreet drugs him and has him pass out, I think it's like an 8-minute scene, and it's so well edited that you don't even realize how many cuts are in it. This is your final scene here, where this whole sequence is about 28 minutes long. it's it's pretty great, pretty damn good, bold way to end a film. I always love in movies too that you have like the bad guys sitting in the dark waiting. It's like, I wonder how long they were sitting there for. What if it was like 20 minutes? Or like, where the hell is he? Why is he taking so damn long to come back to his place? Yeah, this film would go on to be nominated for Best Picture, Supporting Actor, and Best Screenplay. This is Greenstreet's He got an Academy Award nomination for this performance, and I think a lot of it. I think Bogart should have gotten a nomination too, but another gun pointed at Bogart. Take a shot. I think when you watch throughout this scene, just notice how much the sweat on Green Street just slowly starts to appear. He's just wanting that power and that Falcon more and more. And he's just hungry for it. He just slowly starts like sweating. I'll point it out when we see it. Yeah, I mean, this is considered one of the greatest films ever made. It's in the Library of Congress. It's most significant. It's been on the AFI top 100 movies of all time since they started that list. It's been in the top 25 majority of the time. Again, it's just the influence of this film creating a genre that would then go on to spark even more greater films. Double Indemnity, like Mildred Pierce. Just the Mildred Pierce and the way that it looks. You wouldn't have that type of that lighting, that Double Indemnity. You wouldn't have these films without this film and having the history of Hollywood and these older films that can influence future generations needs to be taught and preserved and studied. And that's why I like doing this podcast, because it allows me to rewatch all of these, study the background of the production, do a bunch of research, and listen to other commentaries from either the director, actors, historians, talking about how influential these films are. And at the time you're making these films, you're not going to know what the importance of what you're watching is, but it is important, and it's important to preserve and teach and show future generations that want to get into film and filmmaking and acting. And this is what they were doing in 1941, and it's fucking great. These movies, some of these movies are 100 times better than movies made today. Way more impactful when you watch them. And what I love about this movie is Houston allows a lot of the dialogue that, like, especially in that shot there, Bogart is even facing us when he's talking. He allows the scene to play out as opposed to cutting just to get a close up. He does cut to a close up, but he allows Bogart to move within the frame. He's allowing the scene to play out as opposed to hiding a lot of it through editing. And that shows the confidence of a director, the confidence of the crew, confidence of the editor, and it works. I think they did, because this film was so successful for Warner Brothers, they did want Houston to direct another film, and I think it would have been titled "The Further Adventures of the Maltese Falcon," and Bogart would have returned, um, but I think there was just too high demand from Houston Bogart. I think they just wanted a lot more money, and because of the success of it, and I think Warner Brothers didn't want to give him that, so they kind of just scrapped the idea. But I think they did have a bunch of radio plays for this. There was one for CBS in 1942, and Bogart did come back for that. I believe if you own the 4K or Blu-ray, they have the 3 radio broadcasts on there, and Bogart does come return for it, for one of them. And I think there was another one that Bogart, Astor, Greenstreet, and Laurie all came back for. And there's a lot of those radio adaptions. A lot of them, they're not as like 2 hours long. Some of them are only like 30 minutes, an hour. It's more of a condensed version of the story because just for radio broadcasting. Just, I think a lot of people forget that sometimes, or back in the day, people would go around the radio and turn it on at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night, and there's a new story, and they would have actors of high caliber come and do those radio broadcasts. Some often playing the same characters that they played on screen. I think when this film was released, Variety called it one of the best examples of an action film, actionful and a suspenseful, melodramatic story telling in a cinematic form. Which at that time that genre wasn't established, and that the description would become the film noir genre. And I think when this film was released, a lot of critics and people around Hollywood realized not only how good of an actor Bogart was, but how great of a director Huston was for a first time. And knowing, like, if you're watching this shot right here, like, he's moving the camera perfectly, and then he pushed in and he continues, it's all one shot, and he's just continuing to move the camera to what Greenstreet's doing. Again, shows that confidence. And upon the release of this film, audiences, people in Hollywood noticed that, hey, this John Huston guy's got something here. Yeah, I think Huston also getting that screenplay nomination at the Academy Awards shows that his peers and the Hollywood system was already giving him respect and showing him that respect. I also love how this room here has a lot of like horses. I think this is obviously Bogart's apartment or whatever. A lot of horses in the background, but it's kind of like, to me, it's like Bogart resembles this lone like cowboy in the West in this scene where this story where he's kind of the loner and what's going on here. Everyone's trying to trick him, and he's like that lone gunman that has to solve the story himself. That lone cowboy in the Wild West of film noir. He's the lone cowboy. And I love those reaction shots on Mary Astor when she realizes that a lot of everything she's lied to everyone about is now slowly unraveling. And she knows that she's possibly about to get caught here. And I love these close-ups. Incredible. And there you have that shot again of the person in between. I think there was a shot in Challengers where they kind of warp the image, but it kind of looks like that, where you have Zendaya and then Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist in the scene. But I love that when he woke up, you have just the close-ups on all the actors just staring at him. It's just beautiful editing. And it looks fantastic. Yeah, I think Pauline Kael too is obviously one of the most famous film critics of all time. Let's say like her and Roger Ebert are the most famous. Um, she thought that this was by far Bogart's best role. Showed his mixture of like honor and fear, and gave like a new take on the detective genre, which they hadn't seen before. And again, this is them talking about something that a genre that essentially hadn't been established yet and was about to be in that film noir genre. And she like lauded the how great the script was, how great essentially everything was perfectly plotted out. It's just she just realized that Bogart and Houston have had something special on the screen here that very rarely after a pair would come along like that and become amazing friends and create something that is considered a masterpiece. And I think it's a masterpiece in filmmaking, a masterpiece in classic cinema. Again, we're, I don't know, 10 minutes, 13 minutes into this scene, and it's still the same scene. They've been walking around, getting up, walking around to have to meticulously craft the blocking for this and the rehearsing of this, and then to come in under budget in a short amount of time to film the entire film. That's perfect. And maybe he realized that, hey, if I get that last scene in and it's all in one scene, essentially, one room, I can cover a lot. I can do a lot of coverage today. Obviously, we showed time passing with the edit and the dissolve, but again, we're still in the same location. And we haven't even seen the Maltese Falcon object yet. It's still. We still don't even know what they're fighting over. And I love that when it dissolved to them kind of all still hanging out. He didn't have the doorbell ring immediately. You still waited another like 35 seconds of them all just sitting there in silence waiting. And here we go. And here we go. And now we see, this is where you start to notice Sidney Greenstreet. His character starts to just, you see the sweat on his forehead now. He's been waiting for this moment. And I feel like having that sweat on him resembles that like greed and hunger for power. And he'll stop at nothing to get it. It's almost as if that power is like melting him. And then you have all of them looking at the Maltese Falcon. Then you have Bogart's reaction to them looking at the Maltese Falcon. Again, they're fighting over something that is so simple of an object. Well, not simple. It's a really cool object, but so small. But it resembles something so powerful. And I think it was designed after a hawk, but I think the actual it weighed about 45 or 50 pounds. I think it was like 11 inches tall. Yeah, like the actual like and you can kind of tell like when Bogart was handed the like the newspaper was wrapped in, and you can kind of you can see the weight. Like he kind of has to like pick it up. And when Sidney Greenstreet was standing it up, he was. You can see the weight. Yeah, Peter Lorre's voice, man, when he yells, it's just so good. I love that shot of them both unraveling, but then you have Peter Lorre in the background, out of focus, so small now. Green Street slow, profusely sweating. Yeah, and when he picked it up there, you can see the weight of that thing. Yeah, for those listening, I don't know how many Bogart films you've seen, or even Peter Lorre films you've seen, but especially Bogart, I highly recommend his run from like 39 to obviously later in his career. Like, he had incredible films in there, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but in my opinion, and Pauline Kael says this is her greatest Bogart performance. Mine is in A Lonely Place. Highly, highly recommend that. Maybe you can watch it right after listening to this commentary. It's in the Criterion Collection. I don't know if it's currently streaming on the Criterion channel. It might not be, but I mean, yeah, films obviously. I would say this, Maltese Falcon, Casablanca, In a Lonely Place are my top Bogart performances. He would go on to win for The African Queen, which he's great in. But for me, that seems like it's more of a Bogart's finally getting one. Then he had all of his films with Bacall and To Have and Have Not and Dark Passage, Key Largo, and obviously Mary Bacall and when they filmed To Have and Have Not. And I think just with Bogart too, it's when you watch him, like when he just even enters the scene, your eye just goes right to him, and that's just the power that he had as an actor. Like he just commanded anyone else that was in that room. And now we see the unraveling of Mary Astor, and he's tricking her into saying, "Go after that pear now. I'm going to get you to confess. You've been lying to me the whole time." And then we have one of the most famous lines of all time at the end of this film coming up, and the very last line of the movie, and the stuff that dreams are made of, which for me is an incredibly important line for me with just film in general. It's filmmaking you can use is, again, it's stuff that dreams are made of. You're making your dreams on the screen. You want to take people to another world, and you have a story of all of this murder and lying and deceitfulness over a statue of a falcon. And now you see Bogart's. I think we were talking last night too about how like wet his lips are here. Like he's like foaming at the mouth of getting her to confess. nailing the lines, having like a smirk on his face that he finally got her. He finally got her to confess. And obviously she's telling him, please don't turn me over. And I love that very interesting acting choice to grab her from that. Or he kind of like rubs her neck and says, "Hang her from that sweet neck." It's almost like the contrast of him when he finally gets a confession. It's like that thirsting of power that they were having over the Falcon. His type of power and is him getting that confession out. Intimidation. I won't play this sap for you. There's a great shot coming up here when I'll point it out when we get there, when she gets in the elevator. And again, it's so simple, but with your lighting technique and how you shoot it, it can resemble her future. And I'll point it out in the next couple of minutes here. But again, like that shot too, right there, like she's talking off screen there, like breaking down, and he leaves the camera on Bogart. Any other film probably would have cut to her crying on the chair, but he leaves it on him, and then again we as the audience member are still following along with him. We're seeing his reaction. So then we go and sit down with him. You know, the wait till I'm through, then you can talk. He's tired of the lying. But if he lets her get away, she very well could have be lying in this scene again and cross him again later down the road and hold it over his head that you let me walk for killing someone, but I have to do this because I can never fully trust you. And he does love her. He does care about her, but he has to give her up because that's who he is as a character. He has to see this through. And I think he thinks that a lot of it has to do with money. He does love her, but I think she could have eventually left him once she gets the money. Maybe she kills him once she finally gets the money. And now he officially has to turn her over. Again, it's still the same location, same scene. I feel like this is also just Bogart just collecting guns throughout the throughout the movie. I got this gun here too. I love that that one detective's pissed that it wasn't Sam the whole time. just go down. You can kind of tell when he was like trying to pick it up there how heavy it was. Here we go. Here's the iconic line. Oh, what a line. He's rubbing it and the stuff that dreams are made of. Here's a shot of her. Obviously, the elevator doors resemble the jail cell she's about to be in now. Locked in the cage. Closing it. Closing the door on his love. Closing the story. And perfectly closing what I think is a masterpiece.
This podcast is hosted and edited by Pat Brennan. That's me, with intro and closing music by Patrick Baxter.